The grand hall of Shadow Ridge Castle thundered with the raw energy of hundreds of wolves gathered under one roof. Crystal chandeliers caught the firelight and scattered it across velvet cloaks, jeweled torques, and polished boots. Laughter rolled like distant thunder. Alphas postured on raised platforms, their betas flanking them like living shields. Lower packs pressed against the walls, trying to disappear into the shadows. Elena Blackwood had perfected disappearing. She stood at the very edge of the border ridge contingent, back pressed to cold stone, shoulders rounded so the threadbare gray dress. Her only dress wouldn't draw attention. The fabric was thin at the elbows, patched at the hem where she'd torn it climbing a ridge last spring. No shoes, the stone floor bit into her bare soles. She kept her head down, letting long, dark curls curtain her face, especially her eyes. One amber gold, bright as fresh honey in sunlight. The other pure silver, like moonlight frozen in metal. They'd called her cursed since she was old enough to understand the word. Different, wrong, a bad omen. So she learned to hide them, learned to make herself small, learned that silence was safer than speaking. Tonight the air felt heavier than usual. The annual Unity gathering always carried tension. Alliances tested, dominance displays, subtle power plays. But something electric hummed beneath Elena's skin. Her wolf stirred, restless, lifting her head inside her for the first time in years. Then it hit. A shockwave of heat and light exploded behind her sternum. Her breath caught. Her hand flew to her chest as though she could hold her heart in place. Power, connection, recognition. Mate. The word roared through every nerve, undeniable, sacred. Her wolf howled inside her skull. Find him, claim him, mine. Elena's head snapped up. Her mismatched gaze swept the hall, frantic, following the invisible thread that tugged her forward. Through the sea of bodies she saw him. Victor Kane, Alpha King of Shadow Ridge. 29 winters, broad-shouldered, black hair falling loose to his collarbones, eyes the color of storm clouds before lightning. He stood on the central dais, mid-sentence with the iron claw Alpha, when the bond struck him too. His entire body locked. The goblet in his hand tilted, red wine spilled across his knuckles. His wolf surged so violently his eyes flashed gold for a heartbeat. Mate. Now, find. Victor's gaze cut through the crowd like a blade. It landed on her. For one perfect, suspended second, the world narrowed to the space between them. Elena felt whole, seen, chosen. Then Victor's expression changed. He really looked at her. The patched dress, the bare feet, the wild, untamed curls, and those eyes, one gold, one silver, staring back at him with raw hope. Something twisted in his face, disgust, disappointment, revulsion. He stepped down from the dais. The crowd parted instantly. Every eye followed him. Elena's heart slammed against her ribs. He's coming to me. He felt it too. He's going to. Victor stopped 3 paces away. He let his gaze rake over her slowly, deliberately, loud enough for the nearest wolves to hear. This must be a mistake, he said, voice carrying across the sudden hush. The moon goddess could not possibly have paired me with this. Gasps rippled outward. Elena blinked, confusion warring with the still singing bond. I felt it, she whispered. You felt it too, I know you did. Feeling something does not mean I accept it. Victor's tone was ice. He took another step back, increasing the distance. Look at yourself, rags, no shoes, hair like you've been dragged through a briar patch. His eyes lingered on hers. And those mismatched eyes, marked, cursed, everyone knows what they mean. The word cursed landed like a slap. Tears stung Elena's vision, but she refused to let them fall. The bond is sacred, she said, voice trembling but clear. The goddess chose. The goddess was wrong. Victor cut her off, each word a blade. He turned slightly, addressing the hall. I am Alpha King of Shadow Ridge. I need a Luna of strength. Lineage, beauty, honor, not, he gestured at her. This, someone who brings nothing but shame. The hall erupted in murmurs. She's Border Ridge trash. Those eyes always said they were bad luck. He's right to refuse her. Victor's chosen companion, a tall blonde named Serafina, all sharp cheekbones and expensive crimson silk, stepped forward and slid her arm possessively through his. She smiled down at Elena like she was looking at roadkill. Victor met Elena's gaze one last time. There is no bond here worth keeping. He raised his voice, so every wolf in the hall could bear witness. I, Victor Kane, Alpha King of Shadow Ridge, reject you, Elena Blackwood of the Border Ridge Pack, as my fated mate. I renounce the bond. You are not worthy to stand at my side. The pain came instantly. A white-hot lance through Elena's chest. The bond screamed, then tore. Something vital ripped away. She folded in half with a raw animal cry, knees slamming into stone. Her vision blurred. Sobs tore from her throat. Victor watched, face carved from granite. Around them, some wolves laughed, others whispered. A few looked away. Get her out, Victor ordered, voice rough. She's embarrassing herself. An older she-wolf from a minor pack hurried forward, helping Elena stand. Elena could barely see through the tears. She looked at Victor one last time, searching for regret for anything. All she saw was cold resolve. Then she was dragged from the hall. Outside, the night air hit like a slap. Elena collapsed against the outer wall, sliding down until she sat on cold flagstones. The physical agony was fading into a deep, throbbing ache, but the humiliation burned hotter. He looked at me and saw only flaws. He said it out loud so everyone could hear. He called me cursed. He said I bring shame. The older she-wolf crouched beside her. I'm sorry, child. No one deserves that. Elena wiped her face. Tears kept coming anyway. I'm leaving, she whispered. Where will you go? Anywhere that isn't here. The woman hesitated, then nodded. Maybe a fresh start is best. There is no fresh start, Elena thought. I'll always be the girl who wasn't good enough. She pushed to her feet. Every step hurt. The broken bond pulsed like an open wound. But she walked. Into the forest, past the last torches, into darkness. She didn't look back. The pines swallowed her quickly. Moonlight barely reached the forest floor. Elena stumbled over roots, bare feet bleeding on sharp stones. Pain was everywhere, physical, emotional, soul-deep. Her wolf took over. The shift came hard, involuntary, survival instinct overriding thought. Bones cracked. Skin burned. Fur pushed through. When it finished, she was smaller than most she-wolves, dark coat blending into shadow, mismatched eyes still gold and silver, glowing faintly. Run. She ran. Through freezing streams, over rocky ridges, through thickets that tore at her muzzle. She ran until the air grew colder, cleaner, until the scent of Shadow Ridge faded and new territory scents rose, pine, cedar, river stone. Dawn painted the sky pink when her legs finally gave out. She staggered to a massive cedar, roots forming a shallow hollow. She curled into it, muzzle tucked under tail, body shaking. Just a moment, she told herself, just to rest. Darkness took her. Voices pulled her back. Male, close, hunters. Elena tried to rise, too stiff, too weak. Two men stepped through the trees, leather vests, bows slung over shoulders. One older, gray-streaked beard. One younger, scar slicing his left cheek. They froze when they saw her. Small female, the older muttered. Alone, injured. Elena tried to growl. It came out a pathetic whine. The younger one squinted. Look at her paws, bleeding bad. The older man took a step closer. Elena backed against the roots. Nowhere to go. Then she lifted her head. Her eyes caught the light, one gold, one silver. Both men recoiled. Gods above, the younger breathed, making a warding sign. Mismatched, cursed. The older man's face hardened. My granddaddy always said creatures like that bring ruin, sickness, death. Elena tried to run. 3 stumbling steps before her injured leg buckled. The older man moved first. His boot slammed into her ribs. Pain exploded. She rolled across damp earth. Cursed thing, he snarled, kicking again. Should have been drowned at birth. The younger joined in. A boot to her foreleg crack. Bone gave way. Elena whimpered, tried to bite, got a kick to the head instead. Stars burst, world tilted. Rough hands grabbed her scruff, dragged her. She heard water rushing, cold. They threw her onto the riverbank. Stones punched her ribs, air left her lungs. The older man raised his boot high, stomped down, ribs snapped. Elena couldn't even cry out. Finish it, the younger said. Don't want that thing near our traps. Another kick to the skull. Darkness rushed in. The last thought before nothing. Victor was right. I really am cursed. Darius Silvercrest woke before dawn, with his wolf snarling under his skin. Not fear, not anger, instinct, urgency. He dressed quickly, dark tunic, boots, and left the castle of Silverhaven without waking the guard. Shifted the moment he cleared the gates. Golden fur caught the first gray light as he ran the eastern border. Something pulled him. Blood scent hit first, fresh, too much. He accelerated, paused, devouring distance. At the river's edge he saw her. Small, dark she-wolf, soaked in blood and water, motionless on smooth stones. Darius shifted back mid-stride, dropped to his knees beside her. Alive, barely. Breath shallow, ribs caved on one side, front leg bent wrong, bruises everywhere, blood matting her fur. Who did this? He growled, cold fury rising. No time for answers. He gathered her carefully against his chest, small, far too light, and ran. Guards snapped to attention at the gates, saw what he carried. One sprinted ahead, shouting for the healer. Darius carried her through torchlit corridors to the recovery wing, laid her gently on clean linens. The healer, a silver-haired woman named Mara, took one look and swore softly. Mother Moon, what happened to her? Found her on the border stream, beaten within an inch of death. Mara worked quickly, probing, cleaning, setting the broken leg, binding ribs. She's lucky you found her. Another hour and she'd have bled out or frozen. Can you save her? I'll fight like hell to try. Darius stepped outside but stayed close, back against the wall, waiting. Hours later, Mara emerged. She's stable, for now. Rest, care, time, she'll need watching. Darius nodded. She gets everything she needs, no expense spared. Mara studied him. Why does this one matter so much, Alpha King? Darius didn't answer right away. He thought of those eyes, gold and silver, flashing open for one heartbeat before closing again. Some things are worth protecting, he said quietly. 3 days passed. Darius entered the recovery room each morning. Mostly she slept. He sat, watched her breathe, brought fresh water, wild flowers from the meadow. On the 4th morning, he found her human. Dark curls spilled across the pillow, pale skin mottled with yellow-green bruises, simple linen shift, bandages visible beneath. She stirred, eyelids fluttered. Then those eyes opened. Gold, silver. Extraordinary. Fear flashed across her face. She tried to push back, winced at the pain in her ribs. Don't move, Darius said gently, staying near the door. You're safe, you're hurt, but you're healing. She stared at him, wary, disoriented. Who? Darius Silvercrest, Alpha King of Silverhaven. You're in my castle recovery wing. He lifted the water cup slowly. May I? She hesitated, then nodded. He approached carefully, handed her the cup. She drank in small sips. How did I get here? I found you by the eastern stream, badly injured, brought you back. Memories surfaced. She looked away. Hunters. Darius's jaw tightened. They saw your eyes. She gave the smallest nod. He crouched so their eyes were level. Your eyes are not a curse. They're beautiful, unique. I've never seen anything like them. Tears welled. She didn't fight them this time. You mean that? Every word. She made a small, broken sound. Darius stayed still, letting her feel it. After a long silence, she whispered, Elena, my name is Elena. Elena, he smiled softly, it suits you. She looked at him like no one had ever said her name with kindness before. Thank you, she said, for saving me, for not looking at me like I'm wrong. You're not wrong, Darius said firmly. You're extraordinary and you're safe here. No one will hurt you again. You have my word as Alpha King. Something shifted in her eyes, small, fragile hope. Darius made himself a silent promise. He would help her heal. Body, heart, everything. And he would never let anyone make her feel cursed again. Weeks blurred into months in the quiet recovery wing of Silver Haven Castle. At first, Elena barely left the bed. Pain kept her pinned, ribs knitting slowly, leg throbbing under the splint, soul still raw from the severed bond. She spoke in whispers, ate what was brought, slept in fits. Every time footsteps approached the door, she tensed, half expecting Victor's voice, half expecting mockery. Instead, it was always Darius. The Alpha King of Silverhaven came every morning, never stayed long enough to crowd her. He brought small things, a bowl of fresh blackberries from the valley, a sprig of mountain lavender that smelled like clean rain, a carved wooden wolf figurine no bigger than her palm. He never asked about Shadow Ridge, never pressed for the story she wasn't ready to tell. He simply sat in the chair by the window, long legs stretched out, golden hair catching the light like spun sunlight, and talked about safe things. The river otters that played below the eastern bridge. How the pack pups had discovered mud wrestling and turned the training yard into a disaster. The way the first snow always smelled different, sharper, cleaner. Elena listened. Slowly, the knot in her chest loosened just enough to breathe. One morning, Mara declared her strong enough to stand unaided. Elena took 3 shaky steps across the room before her leg buckled. Darius was there in an instant, hands gentle at her elbows, steadying without caging. Easy, he murmured. No rush. She looked up at him, really looked. Blue eyes steady, no pity, only patience. Thank you, she said, for everything. You're welcome. A small smile tugged his mouth. Now let's get you outside. Fresh air does more for healing than any poultice. He didn't carry her. He walked beside her, matching her halting pace down stone corridors, through arched doorways, into the wide inner courtyard. The first breath of pine-scented wind hit her like medicine. She closed her eyes, let it wash over her. When she opened them again, Darius was watching, not starring, just present. Your eyes catch the light differently out here, he said quietly. Like fire and frost at the same time. Beautiful. Elena's throat tightened. No one had ever called them beautiful, not once. She didn't know what to say, so she simply nodded. Days turned into routine. Morning walks, short at first, then longer. Afternoon lessons, Mara teaching her basic herbcraft so she could help in the infirmary. Evening quiet, Darius sometimes joined her on the balcony overlooking the valley, sharing silence that felt safer than words. He began training her when her leg finally healed clean. Not because she asked, because one day she watched pack warriors sparring in the yard below, and something fierce flickered inside her. I want to learn, she told him. Darius studied her for a long moment. Then we start tomorrow, dawn. Training was brutal. Darius was patient but unrelenting. He taught her balance first, how to feel the ground through bare feet, how to shift weight without telegraphing. Then blocks, strikes, how to use an opponent's momentum against them. You're small, he said during their third session, circling her on the packed dirt ring. Use it, speed, angles never meet force with force. Elena lunged. He sidestepped easily, tapped her shoulder. Too slow. She growled under her breath, actual growl, and tried again. He laughed, not mocking, delighted. That's it, get angry, then channel it. Months passed. Elena changed. Muscle corded her arms, her legs, shoulders squared. She moved with purpose now, not apology. When a young warrior stared too long at her mismatched eyes during a sparring session, she met his gaze straight on. He looked away first. Darius noticed. He noticed everything. One evening after a particularly grueling session, sweat-soaked, breathing hard, they sat on the low stone wall overlooking the training yard. Sunset painted the mountains gold and rose. You're different, Darius said quietly. Elena wiped her face with the back of her wrist. I feel different. He turned to her. You were always extraordinary, you just didn't know it yet. Her heart did something strange, tripped, then steadied. She looked at him, really looked. The way his golden hair fell across his forehead when he was thinking. The faint scar along his jaw from some old border skirmish. The quiet strength that didn't need to shout. Something warm unfurled in her chest. Not a bond, not fate. Choice. She didn't name it yet. But it was there. Darius began including her in council meetings. At first she sat in the back listening, taking notes, observing. She noticed things others missed. The way Elder Rowan's hands trembled when he spoke of the northern trade route, fear of rogue attacks. How Beta Cole always shifted his weight left when he lied about grain stores. Patterns in the border reports, small raids increasing, testing Silverhaven's edges. One afternoon, the council debated reinforcing the eastern watchtowers. Voices rose, tempers flared. Elena cleared her throat. Every head turned. She spoke quietly but clearly. If we reinforce all 3 towers equally, we spread ourselves thin, but look at the raid patterns. She pointed to the map spread across the table. They hit here, here, and here, always avoiding the middle tower. It's a feint. They want us to pull men from the center so they can strike the supply road. Silence. Darius leaned forward. You're sure? I've watched the reports every week for 3 months. The pattern holds. He studied the map, then her. Make it so, he told the council. Double the center tower. Light patrols on the flanks to maintain the illusion. The motion passed unanimously. Later in the corridor, Darius caught her arm, gentle. You just saved us weeks of wasted effort. Maybe lives. Elena flushed. I just saw it. You see more than most. His thumb brushed her sleeve once, then dropped. Stay, help me with the rest of it. Be my eyes where mine aren't enough. She swallowed, nodded. From that day, she sat at his right hand during council. The rejected mate became the valued advisor. Whispers followed her through the castle halls now, not cruel but curious. She's the one the Alpha King found half dead. Look at her move. She trains with him every morning. Those eyes, they're not cursed, they're striking. Elena stopped hiding them. She met stares, smiled sometimes, walked with her head high. Darius watched the transformation with quiet pride. And something deeper. He caught himself watching her during meetings, not the reports, her. The way she tucked a curl behind her ear when thinking, the flash of gold and silver when she laughed, rare, but brighter every time. The way she challenged him without fear when she thought he was wrong. His wolf noticed too. Not mate, his wolf said, better chosen. One night in the library, late, fire crackling, shelves heavy with scrolls, Darius found her bent over a trade agreement with the coastal packs. He set 2 mugs of mulled cider on the table. "Break," he said. She looked up, smiled, small reel. He sat across from her. They drank in comfortable quiet. Eventually he asked, "Are you happy here?" Elena considered. "At first I was just surviving, grateful not to be dead." She met his gaze. "Now I wake up and I want to be here. I want to help. She hesitated. "I want to stay." Darius's heart kicked hard. "And me?" he asked softly. "Do you want to stay for me?" Her breath caught. She set the mug down, stood, walked around the table until she stood between his knees. "Darius," she said, first time she'd used his name without Alpha King in front of it. "You saved my life. You gave me back my worth. You looked at the things everyone called flaws and called them beautiful." Her hand rose, fingertips brushing his cheek. "Yes, I want to stay for you." He caught her wrist gently, turned his head, pressed a kiss to her palm. "I've been falling for you since the moment those eyes opened in my arms," he admitted, voice rough. "Not because of any bond, because of you, your mind, your courage, the way you fight to be more every single day." Elena's eyes shimmered. He stood slowly, cupped her face with both hands. "May I kiss you?" She rose on her toes. "Please." Their first kiss was careful, soft, searching, then deeper. Her fingers curled into his tunic, his arms banded around her waist. Heat, certainty, home. When they parted, both were breathing hard. "I love you," Darius said against her forehead. "Not fate, me, I choose you." Elena smiled through sudden tears. "And I choose you." They stood like that a long time, wrapped in each other, fire popping, world quiet. Until a messenger knocked. Darius opened the door. A scroll sealed with black wax, Shadow Ridge crest. He broke it, read, expression darkened. Elena stepped beside him. "What is it?" "Invitation," he said flatly. "Grand Unity Ball in Shadow Ridge. Victor Kane is presenting his chosen Luna officially." Elena went still. The room felt colder. Darius looked at her. "We can decline. Diplomatically it would sting, but—" "No," Elena's voice was steady. "I want to go." He searched her face. "Why?" "Because I've spent months rebuilding myself here, proving to myself that I'm more than what he said I was." She lifted her chin. "Now I want them to see it too, not for revenge, for closure, for me." Darius studied her a long moment, then nodded. "Then we go together." He pulled her close again. "And when we walk into that hall," he murmured, "every wolf there will know exactly what Victor Kane threw away." Elena smiled, small, fierce. "Good." The seamstresses worked for weeks. When the gown arrived, Elena couldn't speak. Deep sapphire silk, color of twilight sky, shot through with silver thread that caught the light like starlight. The bodice fitted close, then flowed into a sweeping skirt. Sleeves long but sheer, embroidered with tiny wolves in gold. It matched her eyes perfectly. When she tried it on and stepped out of the dressing chamber, Darius went utterly still. "Gods," he breathed. Elena turned in a slow circle. "Too much." He crossed the room in 3 strides, took her hands, lifted them so he could look at her fully. "You look like a queen," he said hoarsely. "My queen." She blushed. "Not yet." "Soon," he promised, "if you'll have me." Her smile was answer enough. They left for Shadow Ridge 2 days later. The journey took 3, carriage over mountain passes, through frost-kissed valleys. Elena was quiet most of the way. Darius let her be, held her hand when she needed it, talked when she wanted distraction. The night before they reached the castle, she finally spoke about it. They sat beside the inn's hearth, alone in the common room. "It happened at the last Unity gathering," she said softly. "I felt the bond snap into place, thought for one stupid second that someone finally saw me." She stared into the flames. "Then he looked, really looked, and he tore me apart in front of everyone, called me cursed, rags, shame." Darius's jaw clenched so hard a muscle ticked. "He's a fool," he said simply. Elena glanced at him. "Anyone who looks at you and doesn't see power, grace, intelligence, beauty is blind." He reached over, tucked a curl behind her ear. "Tomorrow you walk in on my arm, radiant, untouchable, and he will choke on every word he ever said." She leaned into his touch. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" "For giving me the strength to face this." He kissed her knuckles. "You gave yourself that strength. I just got to watch." They arrived at Shadow Ridge Castle at dusk. Dark stone towers loomed against a bruised sky. Torches blazed along the battlements. Wolves lined the approach, nobles in velvet, guards in polished leather. Darius stepped from the carriage first, offered his hand. Elena took it. She emerged into torchlight. Gasps rolled through the crowd. The sapphire gown shimmered. Silver embroidery caught firelight like stars. Her dark curls were swept up, loose tendrils framing her face. Head high, shoulders back. Mismatched eyes blazing, one gold flame, one silver ice. She was breathtaking. Darius tucked her hand into the crook of his arm. "Ready," he murmured. She squeezed once. "Born ready." They climbed the steps together. Every eye followed. Whispers exploded. "Who is she?" Those eyes, gold and silver. "She's with the Alpha King of Silverhaven." "Wait, isn't that?" They entered the great hall. Hundreds of wolves, music, laughter, jewels glittering. Victor Kane stood at the far end. Black velvet, silver torque, blonde Seraphina clinging to his arm in crimson silk. Darius and Elena moved through the crowd. Heads turned, conversations died. Victor saw them. Froze. His goblet slipped an inch, wine sloshed. His eyes locked on Elena. Recognition hit like a physical blow. Color drained from his face. "Elena," he breathed. Seraphina frowned. "Who?" Elena met his gaze, cool, composed, polite. "Victor," she said with a small, formal nod. "Congratulations on your chosen. May your union bring you everything you deserve." The words landed like a slap wrapped in silk. Victor's jaw worked. "You're with him." Darius answered before Elena could. "Elena is my most trusted advisor." His voice carried calm steel. "And yes, she honors me with her company tonight." Victor's eyes devoured her. The gown, the confidence, the poise. This was not the broken girl he'd rejected. This was something else entirely. Something magnificent. Something he'd lost. Jealousy flashed raw across his face. Seraphina tightened her grip. "Victor!" He ignored her. "I need to speak with you," he said to Elena. "Alone." Elena tilted her head. "There's nothing that needs saying." "Elena." "Enjoy your ball, Alpha King." She turned to Darius with a small, genuine smile. "Shall we dance?" Darius offered his arm. "It would be my honor." They walked away. Victor stood rooted, staring after her. The blonde's face flushed crimson. The hall watched. And somewhere deep inside Victor, something old and broken began to howl. The orchestra struck the opening chords of a slow, sweeping waltz. Couples drifted onto the polished marble floor like leaves caught in a current. Candlelight danced across silk and velvet, turning the great hall of Shadow Ridge Castle into a living sea of color and motion. Darius guided Elena to the center. His hand rested warm and steady at the small of her back. Hers settled lightly on his shoulder. When he drew her close enough to feel the steady beat of his heart against hers, the rest of the room blurred at the edges. They began to move. He led with quiet confidence. She followed instinctively, steps sure, body remembering the countless evenings they'd practiced in Silver Haven's moonlit courtyard. The sapphire gown swirled around her ankles like midnight water. Silver embroidery caught every flicker of light, making her shimmer as though lit from within. Heads turned. Whispers followed them in waves. She moves like she was born to this. Those eyes, gods, they're mesmerizing. Is that really the Border Ridge girl Victor rejected? Look at her now, untouchable. Elena felt every stare, not as judgment this time, as awe. She lifted her chin a fraction higher. Darius leaned in, lips brushing the shell of her ear. "You're stealing every breath in this room," he murmured, "including mine." She smiled, small, private, just for him. "You taught me how to stand tall. I only gave you the space. You did the rest." They turned in perfect sync. Across the floor, Victor watched them, dark eyes burning, jaw locked so tight the muscle jumped. Serafina clung to his arm, trying to pull him into the dance, but he barely moved. His gaze never left Elena. The music swelled. Darius spun Elena once, slow, graceful. When she came back into his arms, her mismatched eyes met his blue ones. "I love you," he said softly. No title, no audience, just them. Her heart stuttered. "I love you too," she whispered back. The words felt like truth made solid. They danced through another turn, then another, until a shadow fell across them. Victor stood there, tall, imposing, black velvet tunic straining across his shoulders. Serafina hovered a step behind, face flushed with humiliation and fury. "May I cut in?" Victor asked, voice low, almost polite. But his eyes were anything but. Elena felt Darius tense, protective instinct flaring, but he didn't speak. This was her moment. She tilted her head, considering Victor as though he were a mildly interesting stranger. "Oh," she said, voice light and sweet. "I'd love to, really, but unfortunately my feet seem to have developed a rather inconvenient condition." Victor frowned. "Condition?" "Yes," she blinked with exaggerated innocence. "They refuse to cooperate whenever I attempt to dance with men who publicly declared me cursed and unworthy. It's quite mysterious, almost as if they have standards." A ripple of muffled laughter spread through the nearest couples. Darius coughed, once, covering what was clearly a laugh. Victor's face darkened. "Elena." "Perhaps it's temporary," she continued brightly. "Or perhaps it's permanent. Either way, I wouldn't want to risk embarrassing you in front of your guests." She turned back to Darius, smile radiant. "Shall we continue, my Alpha King? My feet seem perfectly willing when I'm with you." Darius took her hand again. "Always." They glided away, leaving Victor standing alone in the middle of the floor. Serafina made a strangled sound, turned on her heel, stalked toward the nearest exit, crimson skirts snapping behind her. Nobles nearby exchanged glances. Some smirked, others looked stunned. Victor's hands clenched at his sides. The valued advisor had just delivered the most elegant public rejection Shadow Ridge had ever witnessed. Elena and Darius danced until the song ended. When the final note faded, they stepped off the floor together, breathing a little faster, cheeks flushed, eyes bright. "Fresh air?" Darius asked quietly. She nodded. He led her through tall French doors, onto the wide stone terrace. Moonlight silvered the gardens below. Cool night wind carried the scent of pine and frost-kissed roses. the sounds of the ball muffled behind them. They walked to the balustrade, leaned against it side by side. Elena drew a long, steadying breath. "I thought seeing him again would hurt," she said softly, "that it would reopen everything." Darius waited. "But it didn't." She turned to face him. "It felt empty, like he's a stranger who once knew me, nothing more." Darius reached out, brushed his knuckles along her cheek. "You're free," he said. "Yes," her voice cracked on the word. "Truly free." He stepped closer, cupped her face with both hands. "Elena Blackwood," he said, voice rough with emotion. "I have never wanted anyone the way I want you, not because fate decided it, because I see you, every part of you, and I choose you, every day, every moment." Tears shimmered in her mismatched eyes. "Darius." He leaned in. Their lips met slow at first, then deeper, hungry, certain. Her fingers curled into his tunic. His arms banded around her waist, pulling her flush against him. When they finally parted, both were breathing hard. "I love you," he said again, forehead resting against hers. "And I love you," she answered, "more than I ever thought I could." They stood like that, wrapped in each other, moon bathing them in silver, until sharp footsteps shattered the quiet. Victor stormed onto the terrace. Chest heaving, eyes wild, fists clenched. "Get your hands off her," he snarled at Darius. Darius didn't move, simply shifted so he stood slightly in front of Elena, protective, not possessive. "Watch your tone," Darius said calmly, steel beneath velvet. "She is not yours to command." Victor's gaze locked on Elena. "She was mine," he growled. "The bond." "You severed it," Elena cut in, voice steady, cold. "In front of the entire kingdom, you called me cursed, rags, shame. You made sure every wolf heard it." Victor flinched. "I was wrong," he said hoarsely. "I see that now. Look at you. You're," he gestured helplessly. "Magnificent. I was blind, stupid. My wolf never accepted the rejection. The bond is still there, faint but there. We can fix this. The old rituals, blood and moon, it's rare but possible." Elena stepped forward, out from behind Darius. "No." Victor blinked. "There is nothing to fix," she said. "You looked at me and decided my worth in seconds. You humiliated me so thoroughly that I believed it for months. You don't get to change your mind now because I'm suddenly acceptable." Victor's face twisted. Regret, jealousy, desperation. "I beg you," he said, voice breaking. "One chance." Elena shook her head. "You had your chance. You threw it away." Victor surged forward. "Then let it be decided the old way." Darius went still. "An alpha duel," Victor declared, voice ringing across the terrace. "By ancient law, when two kings contest claim over a she-wolf, combat settles it." Gasps rose from the doorway. Nobles crowded behind Victor, drawn by the raised voices. Elena paled. "Darius, no." Victor smiled, cold, dangerous. "Or are you afraid, Silvercrest?" Darius met his gaze, unflinching. "I accept." Elena grabbed his arm. "You don't have to." "I know." He covered her hand with his, squeezed once. "But I will. Not because I think you belong to anyone, because he needs to hear this, in front of his entire kingdom, what he tried to destroy." He turned back to Victor. "I fight for the truth you refuse to see. She was always worthy, always extraordinary. And tomorrow, when the sun rises, every wolf here will know it." Victor's smile faltered for one heartbeat, then hardened. "Dawn," he said. "The old arena, wolf form, half-shift permitted, to submission or death." Darius nodded once. "So be it." An elderly advisor, gray-robed, moon pendant gleaming, pushed through the crowd. "As elder of the temple," he intoned, "I witness this challenge. An alpha duel will be held at first light. The moon goddess will judge. He looked between them. When kings fight over a she-wolf marked by split eyes, blood will answer. And the price may be more than either expects. A shiver ran through the gathered wolves. Victor cast Elena one last look, raw, possessive, broken, before turning and stalking back inside. The crowd dispersed slowly, whispers racing ahead like wildfire. Darius pulled Elena close. "I'm not going to lose," he said quietly. Tears slipped down her cheeks. "If anything happens to you." "Nothing will," he kissed her forehead. "I have something he doesn't." "What?" "A reason worth every scar." She buried her face against his chest. "I'm scared." "I know," his arms tightened, "but trust me." "I do." They stood like that until the terrace emptied. Until only moonlight remained. The rest of the night passed in restless fragments. Darius was given guest quarters. He spent the dark hours packing, reviewing every combat lesson he'd ever taught, visualizing openings, weaknesses. Elena tried to rest in the adjoining chamber prepared for her. She couldn't. She sat by the window, stared at the moon, prayed fiercely, silently, to a goddess who had once seemed cruel. Dawn crept over the mountains like spilled silver. Servants moved through the castle. Torches were lit. The arena, a wide circle of ancient black stone ringed by tiered benches, filled quickly. Hundreds gathered, nobles, warriors, servants, wolves from both kingdoms. Elena sat in the raised witness box, flanked by Silverhaven guards Darius had ordered to stay near her. Her hands were clasped so tightly her knuckles shone white. Sapphire gown replaced by a simple dark cloak. Face pale, eyes fixed on the empty circle below. Victor entered first. Bare-chested, black combat trousers, scars mapping old battles across his torso, black hair tied back, dark eyes burning with purpose. The crowd roared for their king. Then Darius. Same attire, bare torso, dark trousers, golden hair partly bound, blue eyes calm, serene. He found Elena in the stands, held her gaze, gave her the smallest, most reassuring smile. "It'll be all right." She tried to return it. Couldn't. The elder stepped into the center, raised both hands. "Wolves of the moon," he called. "Today we witness an alpha duel. Ancient law will decide honor and right." He turned to Darius. "Darius Silvercrest, Alpha King of Silverhaven, do you accept these terms?" "I do." To Victor. "Victor Kane, Alpha King of Shadow Ridge, do you accept these terms?" "I do." Then transform. Both alphas shifted. Bones cracked, muscles swelled, fur erupted. Victor's wolf was massive, jet black, eyes glowing crimson, shoulders broad enough to block out torchlight. Darius's was sleeker, golden as sunrise, powerful but built for speed and precision. The elder raised his hand. "Begin." Victor exploded forward. No feint, no circle, pure brutal charge, jaws wide, aiming for the throat. Darius sidestepped at the last heartbeat. Claws raked Victor's flank as he passed. First blood. The crowd roared. Victor spun, snarled, charged again. This time slower, hunting. They circled. Victor lunged, feinted left, struck right. Darius saw the fake too late. Fangs sank into his shoulder. Pain detonated. Elena cried out, hand flying to her mouth. Darius twisted, used Victor's weight against him, bit down on the black wolf's ear. Hard. Victor yelped, released, stumbled back. Blood streamed from both. They separated, circled again. Victor attacked relentlessly, rage making him predictable. Darius dodged, countered, never stayed still. A slash across Victor's belly. A bite to the hind leg. Another rake down the shoulder. Victor slowed. Breaths heaving, attacks sloppy. Darius waited. Victor lunged, wild, desperate. Darius moved, not aside but forward. Slid beneath the gaping jaws. Surged up. Fangs locked around Victor's throat. Perfect hold. Victor froze. Struggled once, twice. Then stilled. Slowly, agonizingly, he bared his throat. Submission. Darius released, stepped back. Shifted human. Blood slicked, wounded, standing. Victor shifted too, dropped to his knees, panting, defeated. The elder entered the circle. Submission, he declared. Darius Silvercrest is victorious. The stands erupted, cheers, gasps, stunned silence. Darius looked up. Elena was already running, cloak flying, guards scrambling to follow. She reached him just as his legs buckled. Dropped to her knees, hands flying to his wounds. Darius, gods, there's so much blood. I'm fine, he rasped, managed a crooked smile. Worth it. The healer rushed in, began working, cleaning, stitching, binding. He'll live, she told Elena. Nothing fatal but rest, lots of rest. Elena nodded, never let go of his hand. Across the arena, Victor remained on his knees. Watching them. Watching the way she looked at Darius, like he was her entire world. Watching the way Darius looked back, like she was his. Something inside Victor finally shattered. He rose slowly, turned, walked away. Sparse applause trailed him. His kingdom had seen everything. And nothing would ever be the same. Darius was carried from the arena on a stretcher improvised from cloaks and spears. Blood soaked through the hasty bandages. His breathing was shallow but steady. Elena walked beside him the entire way, hand locked around his, refusing to let go even when the healer tried to shoo her back. The guest chamber they'd been given had been transformed into a makeshift infirmary. Fresh linens, braziers burning herbs to cleanse the air. Mara, the Silverhaven healer who had traveled with them, took command immediately. Out, she ordered the curious servants hovering at the door. All of you, except her. Elena stayed. Mara worked for hours. Stitching deep gashes, setting a cracked rib, cleaning claw marks that ran from shoulder to hip. Elena held Darius's hand through every painful tug of thread, every hiss of breath he tried to swallow. When Mara finally stepped back, wiping blood from her forearms, she looked exhausted but satisfied. He's stable, she said. Lost too much blood, but the wounds are clean. No poison on Victor's claws. He'll heal fully, but he needs rest. Days of it, no shifting, no training, no arguments. Elena nodded, voice small. Thank you. Mara glanced between them, softened. I'll be back at dawn to change the dressings. Try to get him to drink broth when he wakes. And you, she touched Elena's shoulder. Sleep. Even if it's only an hour, he'll need you strong. When the door closed, silence settled. Elena pulled a chair close, sat, kept Darius's hand between both of hers. His eyelids fluttered. Elena. I'm here, she leaned forward, brushed damp golden hair from his forehead. Don't talk, just rest. He managed the ghost of a smile. Worth it, he rasped again. Tears slipped down her cheeks. You idiot, she whispered. You beautiful, stubborn idiot. His fingers tightened weakly around hers. Love you, he said, barely audible. She pressed her lips to his knuckles. I love you too, now sleep. He drifted off almost immediately, exhaustion and blood loss pulling him under. Elena stayed awake, watching the slow rise and fall of his chest, counting each breath like a prayer. Hours passed. Moonlight gave way to pale dawn. Darius stirred again, stronger this time. Eyes opened, found hers immediately. "Hey," he murmured. "Hey yourself." She tried to smile, failed when fresh tears came. "You scared me." "Sorry." He lifted his free hand, slow, pained, and brushed a tear from her cheek. "No more duels, promise." She laughed, shaky, watery. "You'd better not." He studied her face, serious now. "Elena, I meant what I said last night, before the terrace, before everything." She waited. "I choose you," he said, voice rough but certain. "Not because the moon goddess wrote it somewhere, not because of any bond I never felt, because I see you, every scar, every strength, every quiet moment when you think no one's watching, and I want all of it, every day, if you'll have me." Her throat closed. "Darius, I want to ask you properly," he continued. "When I can stand, when I can kneel without falling over like a fool, but I need you to know now, I want you as my Luna, my partner, my everything, if that's what you want too." Elena stared at him. Tears fell freely now. She leaned down, kissed him, soft, careful of every wound. "Yes," she whispered against his lips. 1,000 times yes. His smile, tired, battered, radiant, lit the entire room. They stayed like that, foreheads touching, breathing each other in. Until Mara returned with broth and fresh bandages. She took one look at their faces and rolled her eyes fondly. "Save the romance until he can sit up without bleeding," she muttered. "Eat, both of you." Elena laughed through tears. "Yes, ma'am." 2 weeks later, after the carriage ride home to Silverhaven, after endless days of rest, after wounds scabbed and faded to pink lines, Darius was finally strong enough. He waited until a quiet evening. The castle gardens were silvered with early frost. Lanterns hung in the evergreens. A small fire crackled in the stone pit near the overlook. He led Elena there. No ceremony, no audience. Just them. He wore a simple dark tunic, still careful of his shoulder. She wore the sapphire gown again, cleaned, mendied, beautiful. He took both her hands, looked into her mismatched eyes, gold and silver shining in firelight. "Elena Blackwood," he said, voice steady, strong. "You walked into my life broken and bleeding. You left every mark of pain behind and built something unbreakable. You taught me what real strength looks like, what real love feels like." He sank to one knee, slowly, wincing only once. "I choose you. Today, tomorrow, every day after, will you be my Luna, my queen, my heart." Tears shimmered. She sank down with him, so they were eye to eye. "Yes," she said, "I choose you too, always." He slipped a simple silver band onto her finger, etched with tiny crescent moons and running wolves. Then he kissed her. Deep, slow, certain. When they parted, the garden seemed brighter. 2 years later, Silverhaven thrived. Under the joint rule of King Darius and Luna Elena, the kingdom became known not just for strength, but for fairness, for compassion, for seeing worth where others saw only difference. Children born with unusual traits, no longer hidden. Mismatched eyes, celebrated as marks of the goddess's favor. Border Ridge wolves, welcomed when they fled cruelty. Elena stood on the balcony, overlooking the valley one crisp autumn afternoon. Darius came up behind her, arms sliding around her waist. "Thinking deep thoughts, my Luna." She leaned back against him. "Just grateful. For the pain that led me here." She turned in his arms, looked up at him. "For Victor being blind enough to throw me away. For hunters who thought they could break me. For every moment that brought me to you." He brushed a curl from her face. "You made yourself extraordinary," he said. "I just got lucky enough to witness it." She smiled, wide, bright, unafraid. And now the whole kingdom sees it too. He kissed her forehead. Our kingdom. They stood together as the sun dipped lower. Somewhere far away, in Shadow Ridge, Victor Kane had married Seraphina in a quiet political ceremony. Whispers said he ruled well but joylessly, that he never spoke of the duel, that he never looked at mismatched eyes the same way again. Elena felt no anger anymore. Only quiet peace. She had forgiven, not for him but for herself. Because the girl he'd called cursed had become the Luna legends would tell stories about. And the love she shared with Darius wasn't written in the stars. It was chosen, built, learned, every single day. Darius tightened his arms around her. Happy anniversary, my love. She turned fully into his embrace. Happy anniversary, my Alpha King. They kissed beneath the fatting light, two wolves who had found each other not by fate, but by choice. And that made all the difference.